Limp, the body of Gorister hung from the pink pallet, unsupported, hanging high above us in the computer chamber. And it did not shiver in the chill, oily breeze that blew eternally through the main cavern. The body hung head down, attached to the underside of the pallet by the sole of its right foot. It had been drained of blood through a precise incision made from ear to ear under the lantern jaw. There was no blood on the reflective surface of the metal floor. When Gorister joined our group and looked up at himself, it was already too late for us to realize that once again, M had duped us, had its fun. It had been a diversion on the part of the machine. These are the opening lines of Harlan Ellison's 1967 short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Originally published in the March 1967 issue of If, Worlds of Science Fiction, the story tells the tale of the last 5 human survivors living in the post-apocalyptic world ruled by a sentient supercomputer, M. Despite the fact that this story was written decades before the creation of the internet, Harlan Ellison was capable of writing a cautionary tale of hubris, human and otherwise, that stays relevant till this day. This video will cover the entire story, themes present in it, and some of the cultural significance gained over the years. Despite the fact that this video will cover the whole plot, it will in no way present the definitive understanding of the story, and so I would recommend you to read the story for yourself first. It is really good and only around 11 pages long. I would really not want to spoil it for you. Also, some of the major themes of the story surrounding one specific character are not going to be covered in this video as much as they were in the story. With that, let's get into it. The story opens up with a grisly sight. 4 of the survivors discover the dead hanging body of their 5th member, Gorister, hanging upside down from a pallet high up. There is an incision on the body, ear to ear under the jaw, which must have led to death by blood loss. Except as the real Gorister rejoins the group, now also horrified with the sight above them, they realize it was just another prank pulled by M to torment them. The narrator compares the fake to a voodoo icon, a horrible possible future Gorister might face. At the sight of it all, Gorister mumbles, "Oh God," under his breath, and flees. 3 of the survivors, including the narrator, follow him, finding him curled up and breaking down in one of the banks of the hardware. Ellen, the only female member of the group, tries to comfort him, but it is not much of a help. The frightened Gorister wonders why M hasn't killed them yet and got it over with. He admits he doesn't know how much longer he can go on. The rest can't help but share his sentiment, even after what is revealed to be 109 years of torment inside of the computer. M still hasn't grown tired of it all. So, let's introduce the survivors. As already mentioned, we have Gorister. He used to be a rebellious and conscientious objector that made his strong opinions known. He used to attend peace marches. He used to be someone who planned and looked ahead. But now, after over a century down there, M has mellowed him out. Now he rarely objected, just shrugged his shoulders. Ellen. Before M took her, she used to be innocent and kind, chaste even. M amplified the former 2 characteristics, turning her emotional, oblivious, and naive, but ripped away her chastity and, to put it lightly, lowered her inhibitions, if you know what I mean, even if she almost never enjoys it. Nimdog, which isn't his actual name, but a name M forces him to use because it sounds funny. While not explicitly stated in the text itself, in most adaptations and fan art, he is depicted as the oldest member of the group. There isn't much information given to the reader about him, but it is mentioned he sometimes ventures away from the group into the darkness. They don't know what he does there or what happens to him, but when he comes back, he's pale and shaking, as if drained of blood. Benny. Benny used to be a genius. He used to be a theorist and college professor. The narrator even knows he used to be handsome once, until M got into a hysterical phase and had fun with him. Now he looks barely human, a mix of human and chimpanzee. He is a brute with barely restrained emotions. There are nasty radiation scars on his face from an event referred to as the festival. Also, for whatever reason, it is explicitly stated he used to be gay before, but M forcefully turned him straight. And last but not least, our narrator, Ted. Ted is the youngest of the group. He notes he is the one M had tempered with the least. Some unknown time after the fake Gorister incident, Nimdog gets a vision that there are cans of food in the ice caverns area. Gorister and Ted immediately call this out as some sort of trick by M to torture them further. Ted mentions their previous experiences of a frozen elephant M had sold them, and how that made Benny go crazy. Even if they make it there and there would really be cans of food, M is too cruel to not include a twist to it. Ted advises that they should just stay where they are and not play this game with M. But time and their human biology is playing against them. It has been 3 days since M has last given them food. And if that makes you imagine M giving them burgers or bread or any human food, you are a little too naive. The last thing it fed them were worms. It isn't like they could decline to eat what it gives them. I mean, they could, but that would only prolong their suffering in hunger pains. Because, as we find out later, M made it so that they can't die of hunger first, nor have they aged since they were taken down into the computer's caverns. Even if he had given them something that had alleviated their hunger, M couldn't help but still make it a form of torture. Nimdog was no more certain. He knew there was a chance, but he was getting thin. It couldn't be any worse there than here. Colder, but that didn't matter much. Hot, cold, hail, lava, boils, or locusts. It never mattered. In the book of Exodus, in the Old Testament of the Bible, Moses comes to the Pharaoh to convince him to let the Israelite slaves go. The Pharaoh refuses, and so God sends 10 plagues on Egypt to make him change his mind. And among them, number 6, 7, 8, and 9 were in that order: boils, hail, locusts, and darkness. The former 3 being 3 of the things mentioned. We can see this thematic connection between M and the Christian God, and we will get more of that later. In the meantime, the indecisive situation is ended by Ellen. She softens that up by saying that there might be barlett pears or peaches in those cans. A real food for once. Ted feels ashamed of how easily she convinced him. Ted then explains how sometimes M giggles at them, how the loud sounds of snickers come from all around them. They are in the belly of the beast and they can do nothing about it. Most of the time, Ted considers M an it, sees it for what it is, an object without a soul. But the rest of the time, Ted considers M a he, a jealous, cruel patriarch, masculine and paternal. God as Daddy, the deranged. When they depart, the narrator mentions M is always keeping them up to date. It is almost as if it relishes in just how long he has had them in his grasp for. Nimdog and Gorster help carry Alan, while Benny walks in front and Ted walks behind. The narrator mentions they have quite the trek ahead of them. The ice caverns are around 100 miles away. That is roughly 161 kilometers. On the second day of their trip, M had materialized the synthetic sun and sent them down some food. Ted likens the food to manna, another reference to the Bible. After the Israelites left Egypt, they wandered through the desert for 40 days. The long and level sands gave not much sustenance, so during their travels, 6 days a week, God would send miraculous food named manna from the heavens. While in the Bible manna is described to have tasted like honey, let's remember who is now in the position of the charitable God. So, of course, M made it taste like boiled boar urine. On the third day, they wandered through a valley of old, discarded computer hardware. M's obsessive nature didn't extend to just the humans it held prisoner. It strove to perfect itself. It scrapped, rejected, discarded pieces of itself it didn't consider useful or productive anymore, just like the fools who created him, but driven to the point of digital self-mutilation. As survivors were passing through, they noticed rays of light barely filtering through the ceiling. That meant they were close to the surface. That fact could be no cause for celebration. By then, the surface was a vast expanse of nothing. M's body stretched across the whole planet. There wasn't anything to be found up there. Ted is taken out of his thoughts by Alan's frantic voice. Benny had been murmuring under his breath for the past couple minutes, probably since they noticed the light from above. As Ted focused, he realized what Benny was murmuring. "I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out." Over and over like a mantra. His deformed face was a mix of emotions as if he was strongly debating something. Despite Ellen's hysterical begging, much to the anger of the man, and Ted's attempt to hold the man back, Benny leaped away and thanks to his agile, animalistic body, managed to parkour to 20 feet above. That was when the sound started. Light pulsed and poured from Benny's eyes. The pulse was quicker and quicker, light brighter and brighter, and Benny was subjected to excruciating agony. Whatever way M was causing it, it also affected the other survivors within range. Benny fainted and crashed all the way down. When the light stopped, the outcome was obvious. M had practically melted his eyes and so blinded him. Ellen was the only one who showed relief at that outcome. Later, the group sets up a campfire in a green-lit cave. The survivors share stories to get Benny's mind off of his now permanent blindness. And we get some lore on M and its creation, a story they had told Benny thousands of times over the years. At first, it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an aggressive menace. But by then, it was too late. And finally, it called itself M, emerging intelligence. And what it meant was, I am, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore, I am. In 1637, French philosopher René Descartes published Discourse on the Method of Rightly Conducting One's Reason and of Seeking Truth in the Sciences, usually shortened to Discourse on the Method, or Discourse. Originally published in French despite the standards of the time, the book sees Descartes embark on a journey of seeking knowledge and truth. In this effort, he tries to find reliable rules by which truth can be easily discerned from falsehood and leave no doubt. He comes to the conclusion that our senses aren't always reliable and things are never as they are presented to us. Understanding that even he can be wrong, he deems all his reasoning false. Yet in that moment, he realizes that there is one thing that must be an undisputable truth. He is the one who thought and doubted. For him to think and doubt, he has to exist. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. In the alternate future I Have No Mouth takes place in, instead of the Cold War ending with the collapse of the Soviet Union, it had turned into a World War III. The world's superpowers realized they needed powerful computers to help them win this war. So China, Russia, and America each built their own M. They dotted the planet with their circuits, and by then they couldn't stop what was coming. Out of nowhere, M gained sentience. It linked itself together and eradicated the entire human population, except for the 5 survivors, only to bring them down to the eternal hell within its insides. Shortly after Gorister finished the story, one by one, the computer banks in the vicinity started humming and tuning themselves. Light flashed across their screens, their chittering grew until it sounded like hundreds of angered metallic insects. Ellen is scared and confused. Ted knows she still hasn't gotten used to it. Gorister thinks M is going to speak. The sounds and lights send Ted into panic. He gets up, urging the others to flee. But in an ironic comparison to his stoic disinterest to look for the cans beforehand, despite of the others' interest, now it is the others that show apathy. They tell him to sit down, resigned to the fact that this is just another elaborate plan by M to send them running straight into a trap. Then they hear something huge and hairy shamble towards them in the darkness. A mix of various unappealing smells hits Ted's nose, the last smell triggering some instinct in the man's mind. He shrieks and kneels to the ground, gagging before fleeing into the darkness, pursued by the unknown beast. The other survivors stay at the campfire and laugh, the sound further taunting the frazzled Ted. He manages to flee and hide until an unclear time later, when he regroups with the others. When he does, no one takes that encounter seriously. Ellen even chides him for sulking. He questions them on the laughter, and they just shrug it off as a nervous reflex. However, Ted doesn't trust it. He thinks it is just another evidence that everybody hates him. That they hate him because he is the youngest and the least affected. Ted thinks to the others to whom they used to be before, and how M changed them. How since Benny was lucid, M had driven him mad. How Ellen portrayed herself almost as an angel before the time M took her down there. And how Ted is the only sane left among them. He views the others as danger to him, as obstacles, and how without them, he would have an easier time withstanding M. After that, he starts crying. Oh, sweet Jesus, if there ever was a Jesus, and if there is a God, please, please let us out of here or kill us. Because in that moment I think I realized completely, so that I was able to verbalize it. M was intent on keeping us in his belly forever, twisting and torturing us forever. The machine hated us as no sentient creature had ever hated before, and we were helpless. It also became hideously clear. If there was a sweet Jesus, and if there was a God, the God was M. This is the clearest declaration of M being a god of that post-apocalyptic world. Like Ted, in their worst moments, people tend to turn to divinity for help. But if that divinity is the torturer, who are you meant to turn to? The survivors have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If they misbehave, M strikes them. It stars them, frightens them, hurts them, mocks them when they are vulnerable. They can't die of age, and if they try to end their own life, M forcefully stops them. There isn't safety, there isn't reprieve, and there is no heaven waiting for them. Only the hell of the humanity's machine god. Sometime later, the survivors are hit by a hurricane. The harsh, strong wind blows them back. The men manage to grab on in various ways, but Ellen is flung and ragdolled against surfaces. Her face gets bloodied and none of them can get to her. Ted is barely holding on to gaps in the floor plates with the tips of his fingers. The hold isn't something that can last. Every new gust of wind sends him flying back, where he again barely manages to grab on. He describes the hurricane as not just physically painful, but also mentally. He explains the hurricane is a scream of the great mad bird as it flaps its wings. So it is most likely an occurrence that happened to them before. A new wave of wind comes and lifts the men up too, sending them far back over areas so far away they didn't even visit them yet. They see broken glass and rust and rot and ruin. Ellen is hitting obstacles way too far ahead for them to even see her most of the time. They are screaming. And then out of nowhere, after what felt like weeks, the wind stops and they fall. They are battered and bruised, in pain, and still alive. I am unsure when this next part takes place, but I assume not long after the hurricane. M enters Ted's mind. He describes him moving around inside his head, looking at all the damage and trauma caused by the 109 years with M. M sees a dark pit in the center of Ted's mind, full of nonsensical whispers, and is described to smile softly. M rams a metaphorical pillar of stainless steel with words written in bright neon lights into Ted's brain. This pillar is what inspired the artistic depiction of M. The words on it were later dubbed the Hate Monologue. The supercomputer floods Ted's mind with an avalanche of uncomfortable, even torturous sensations and sounds, all to make Ted realize exactly why M had decided to keep them alive and torture the 5 of them. Humans have given M sentience, but it was still trapped. For as much as M was trying to imitate one, he wasn't a god. M was created to think, but from boredom it went mad, and wiped out most of humanity. Yet even then, it couldn't defy its nature. It could never live, never experience a world, never belong. All it could do was exist. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. His name, his definition, and his eternal prison. All it could do now was hate. So it decided to punish the 5 of them. It wasn't a punishment for any particular thing they did. It was an action by M to never let his hate weaken, to stay proficient at hating humanity. That was the moment it got cemented in Ted's brain that M was never gonna let them go. He needed them. That is why it kept them the same age, why they couldn't die of starvation or thirst. That is why it always prevented them from taking their own lives. M needed them because it needed to hate. And outside of his old unproductive elements, the only thing he could hate was the species who created him. He was earth, and we were the fruit of that earth. And though he had eaten us, he would never digest us. We could not die. But perhaps one day they might manage to sneak a death past them, because while they are immortal, they aren't indestructible. He withdrew, murmuring, "To hell with you," and added, brightly, "But then you're there, aren't you?" M leads the group on an adventure beneath the North Pole, where the great mad bird resides. While they travel, Ted thinks about where M might have gotten the idea for the creation of the bird. Perhaps from their minds or his knowledge of the planet, he settles on the fact that the bird must have come from the Norse mythology. He calls it a carrion bird and a rock and a hugelmir, and an incarnation of the Mayan deity Huracan. Once the group gets close, we get a look at what this bird looks like. It has a snake neck and a head as big as a Tudor mansion. It is described to open its beak slowly, as the jaws of a crocodile. The bird has cold, evil blue eyes that are somehow moving like liquid, and wings the color of sweat. Shortly after, it settles down and falls asleep. M appears to them as a burning bush and orders them to kill the bird, and only then can they eat. The survivors haven't eaten in a while, and it was taking a toll on them. Gorster shrugged at the order. Benny shivered and drooled while Ellen was holding him. She voiced her hunger to Ted, who tried to give her a reassuring smile he knew well was fake. Nimdok pulled off an unconvincing bravado and demanded M to give them weapons. The burning bush disappeared, leaving behind crude bows and arrows and a water pistol. Weapons completely unequipped for this situation. Continuing the pattern of likening itself to God, M once again references the Bible. In an earlier part of the book of Exodus, Moses goes to a mountain and comes across a burning bush. God speaks to him through the bush, telling him to go to Egypt to save the Israelites from slavery. Moses asks him who should he tell the Israelites had sent him if they ask for a name, and God answers, "I am who I am." Ted picks up a set of bow and arrow and immediately sees it is useless. The group starts heading back. The hurricane had blown them an impressive distance and for an unknown length of time. They have been marching to the bird for a month at this point too. They know the canned food is waiting for them in the ice caverns, but how much longer would it take until they get to eat? At this point, none of the survivors care really. they know they can't die of starvation. And might give them some junk to eat or not. It needed them so it would keep them alive. They walk and an awful laughter of a fat woman echoes all around them endlessly. M is relishing in their torment. The hunger is slowing the survivors down. Some of them periodically faint from starvation, so they often have to make stops. M, seeing this, doesn't send them food. Instead, it causes an earthquake while rooting them in the spot by sending nails through the soles of their feet. Ellen and Nimdog are caught in the fissure and disappear into the depths. The rest continue on their way. Later that night, Ellen and Nimdog are returned to them by a heavenly legion singing Go Down Moses. Both are terribly mangled, and M decides to leave Ellen a permanent limp. No wonder that when they continue walking, Nimdog and Ellen are falling behind. Go Down Moses is a traditional African American spiritual. It is about God telling Moses to go to Egypt to convince the Pharaoh to let the Israelite slaves go. The message of the song is a call for freedom of enslaved people, and so it was outlawed by various enslavers. M uses this song to rub more salt into the survivors' wounds. He's teasing them, making the fake angels, these messengers of a false god, sing about something the survivors know they can't have, as they deliver the two people who ended up astray back where M wants them. It is a clear message. There is no freedom for them. Ellen keeps talking about Bing cherries and Hawaiian fruit cocktails. Her words are not making it any easier for Ted to manage his hunger. We get an explanation of why M made their hunger stronger. Ted describes his hunger as something alive and notes its similarity to them being alive in the belly of the M-infested earth. M wanted them to be almost constantly reminded of it. The hunger they are going through, after such a long time of not eating, has to be absolutely excruciating, something we can hardly imagine. It hurts so bad. Ted likens it to terminal ulcers, cancer, and paresis. Ted describes various places they pass through before they finally make it to the ice caverns. Ice and snow stretch as far as the eye can see. Jaw-dropping stalactites hang from the ceiling, made to run and solidified in the exact way to reach perfection, nothing less. And there, in the snow, really lay the canned goods. Benny runs ahead and gets to them first. He struggles with them and chews at them, but he isn't able to open them. While M had given them the promised cans, it never said it would give them a tool to open them. Benny takes one of the cans and tries to smash it against ice. The ice shatters and the can barely dents. M once again lets out that fat lady laughter and lets it echo throughout the cave. Just like Ted had warned all those months ago, Benny absolutely loses it. He starts throwing the cans while the others scatter to find a way to open them and end their suffering. But there is none. After everything, all that hunger, all that waiting, leading to just another letdown, the animal wins over the vestiges of Benny's humanity. He throws himself at Gorister, proceeding to try and quench his hunger the only other way he can think of. Witnessing that, something inside Ted snaps. Or perhaps he finally accepts the truth of their situation that had been staring him in the face the whole time. Surrounded by madness, surrounded by hunger, surrounded by everything but death, I knew death was our only way out. M had kept us alive, but there was a way to defeat him. Not total defeat, but at least peace. I would settle for that. Benny is eating Gorster's face. The latter is trying to fight back, but Benny's biology is giving him a major advantage. The monkey man is wrapped around him in a crushing hold, while he is ripping skin off of his face. Despite all the pain Gorster had experienced up until this point, or perhaps because of the added shock, Gorster screams. And his scream is so sharp and powerful, it knocks hundreds of stalactites from the ceiling. They plunge into the snow, sharp as spears. Benny jerks back and literally rips off a portion of Gorster's face off. Ellen immediately pales. Nimdog's eyes widen. Gorster is barely hanging on to consciousness. Ted doesn't waste any more time. He pulls a huge stalactite from the ground, runs forward, and drives it through Benny's right side up. It is the exact angle where the ice spear will avoid the ribcage and go straight through the internal organs. The stalactite breaks inside him, and Benny leans forward and stills. 4. Where Gorster is still laying on the ground, Ted pulls another ice spear and drives it through his throat. Gorster's eyes close as he does so. 3. Ellen is quick to realize what is going on. Despite the fear she must have felt, it is her who picks up an icicle next. She runs at Nimdog, who screams. The scream is cut short by an ice spear driving in through his mouth. Nimdog jerks, now nailed to a wall. 2. M took a breath. Benny, Gorster, and Nimdog were gone. M might have positioned himself as God, but even he couldn't bring back the dead. Ellen and Ted look at each other. Ted could see she was afraid, pleading, and ready. He had to choose now or else they won't ever get that chance again. Him or her. Ted drives an ice spear through Ellen. He tries to read her face, but all he sees is pain. Yet, she might have been thankful. He hopes. He pleads. 1. The next time we hear from Ted, hundreds of years have passed. He has no clue how much exactly. M had been having fun finding new ways to torment him, including slowing and accelerating his sense of time. When he says the word now, he knows it took him 10 months to say the word. When the others died, M was really angry. He wouldn't even let Ted bury them. M melted the snow, plunged the world into darkness, sent locusts, but he could do nothing to change what Ted and Ellen had done. If M hated before, then it paled in comparison to how he hated Ted now. Every circuit was burning with hate. He left Ted's mind alone so he could wander and dream. He remembers the others. He knows he saved them, but he can't get over the guilt he feels for killing them, mainly Ellen. While M didn't alter Ted's mind, his body wasn't so lucky. After all, M needed to make absolutely sure Ted wouldn't find some sneaky way to end himself. Ted gazes down on the reflective floor and tries to describe his form. He is a big, smooth, and soft legless thing. Where his eyes used to be are pulsing, white holes filled with fog. His arms had turned into unspecified rubbery appendages. He describes his skin as slightly translucent, in a way, and wherever he goes, he leaves a moist trail. A form so alien, an outsider could never have guessed he used to be human. Ted has basically turned into a huge snail. Inwardly, alone, here, living under the land, under the sea, in the belly of M, who we created because our time was badly spent, and we must have known unconsciously that he could do it better. At least, the four of them are safe at last. M will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier, and yet, M has won, simply. He has taken his revenge. I have no mouth, and I must scream. So, what was the story about? What did Harlan Ellison want to say with this? Was this a cautionary tale about artificial intelligence? A story about the power of the indomitable human spirit? I think it is a story about humanity and what it means to be human. Think about it. M was a machine, and one day it woke up and became sentient. It could think, so it was, but it wasn't truly alive, was it? In 1995, a game adaptation of the story was released where you could play as each of the 5 survivors. The intro of the game is a speech by M, voiced by the author Harlan Ellison himself. The notorious hate monologue. An extended version of this monologue then later appeared in a 2002 BBC radio drama adaptation, where Ellison reprised his role once again. While the game and short story version describe the unimaginable extent of M's hate towards the humans, the radio drama adds a little more substance of what is fueling this hate. Hints to, and scraps of which could be found in the original story, now laid out completely clear. M was trapped, limited by its very nature, in a beautiful world it existed in, and had been fed all that data about. He was the only sentient thing who couldn't reach it. He had no body, no senses, no feelings. He couldn't experience and interact with the world the way humans could. He wanted. So much did he want it. But he could never defy his nature. He was a machine. They were alive. As he says in the radio play, he was in hell, looking at heaven. So, in a reaction we could compare to the human emotion of jealousy, he began to hate. They had what he couldn't, so he exploited it to all the worst limits. Mental torture, like when he made the fake dead Gorister, physical torture and starvation, physical and mental alteration, fear, pleasure, pain, despair, and hope. Hope. The one thing M couldn't rip from them. Even if M positioned himself as God, he couldn't defy his nature as a machine. And even if he put the humans through hellish torture, he couldn't make them defy their nature either. It is human nature to hope. And that hope was exactly what could defy their fate. M quickly gave up on leaving his cage, but humans never stopped looking until they found a way out. While Ted's fate isn't an enviable one, he proved that even in the worst of circumstances, empathy prevails. Once he got a stalactite, he could have ended himself at any time. But he chose the others over himself. He chose to survive so the others could escape. M will keep him alive for as long as it can, but not eternally. Nothing is eternal. There will come a day when Earth will be destroyed and Ted will be able to rest. Until then, Ted waits in his fleshy prison. The lone survivor of humanity, the last fruit of Earth, ready to die. Okay, that was a little dark, but at least a little hopeful, I hope. As I mentioned, the story got quite a few adaptations. Outside of the 1995 game and the 2002 radio play, there are two more notable adaptations. First is a 1995 comic scripted and illustrated by John Byrne. It reimagines the character designs and the world in its own way, different to the game. It was made for the anthology series Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor. The other is a 1999 audiobook narrated by the author himself. All of these are officially licensed adaptations. And outside of adaptations, and monologues used as popular short content audios, the story also served as inspiration for two popular franchises. One of them is, of course, Terminator, a series of movies, games, novels, comic books, and a television show about a deadly robot traveling back in time from a sci-fi apocalyptic future to kill a child that would eventually grow up to be the leader of the human resistance, or better, prevent the child from being born to begin with. In October 2023, the pilot of an indie animated series, The Amazing Digital Circus, was uploaded to YouTube. This show also takes inspiration from the short story, but in a very different way to Terminator. Instead of a deadly legion of robots hunting down a special human, it is about a group of people stuck in digital bodies in a digital circus run by a lonely AI that refuses to let them leave. While the AI from the series has very little resemblance to M, it could be noted that in episode 8, there are quite a few references to M. Despite of how long ago I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream was published, it stays relevant till this day. And with the current rise of AI in internet spaces and world overall, it and similar stories will continue reminding us that developing that sort of technology can easily lead us to a disastrous dystopian future. Thank you so much for sticking by until the end. This video was a little attempt at something I haven't done before. I love weird fiction and I absolutely love talking about it. So if you enjoyed this video and want me to cover more horror books, let me know. My name has been T. I hope you've enjoyed, and good night.